Good morning, Black America. Grand Rising, beloved. I'm Crypto Stock Markets, and I'm here to turn digital sense into generational sense. Bitcoin pushed back up near 74,000. Ethereum pushed up near 2,300, and both of them did it while the U.S.-Iran war moved into a third week and oil stayed elevated. That is the setup, because that is not how people usually expect crypto to behave. Usually, when war gets hotter and oil goes up, people expect risk assets to get nervous. But Bitcoin did not act scared. Ethereum did not act dead. So now the real question is not, did price move? The real question is, what kind of move is this? Bitcoin is starting to look less like pure risk and more like an asset people are willing to sit in while the world gets shaky. That is a change, a big change. And when behavior changes, you better stop looking at crypto the old way. Bitcoin near 74,000 during an active war, market is not normal crypto behavior. Ethereum pushing higher with it is not random either. That tells me this market still has buyers. But listen carefully. Buyers being active does not mean you get sloppy. A lot of people know how to watch price. Very few people know how to read behavior, and behavior is what matters here. Here's what I mean. Bitcoin did not just bounce in a vacuum. Digital asset funds just pulled in another $1 billion last week. That made it 3 straight weeks of inflows. Most of that money came through Bitcoin products, and the U.S. was driving almost all of it. So when I tell you Bitcoin is being treated differently, I'm not talking out of the side of my neck. Money is actually coming in. Not one lucky day, not one random green candle, 3 straight weeks. That matters. Now let's go to Ethereum. Ethereum is not just moving because people feel bullish. Ethereum has another tailwind right now. BlackRock launched a stake Ether ETF, ticker ETHB, built around spot ETH exposure plus staking rewards. That matters because it gives bigger investors a cleaner way to think about ETH as yield-bearing exposure, not just a coin moving on vibe. Then you add Bitmine to the picture. Tom Lee's Bitmine added more ETH as Ether climbed back to around 2,300, which was described as a 6-week high. So now you got Bitcoin drawing strength from heavy flows and Ethereum getting support from both treasury buying and the yield story. That is why this move matters. Bitcoin is looking stronger than people expected in a war market. Ethereum is getting stronger institutional help more than people expected in a weak market. Now watch this part closely, because this is where people mess themselves up. They see strength and they start acting like the bear market is over. I am not saying that. I am saying the market is showing unusual strength. That is the difference. And if you don't know the difference, you are exactly the kind of person a bull trap is built for. See, this is my read. Bitcoin right now is acting more like a transitional asset, not full gold, not full tech stock, something in between. That is why it's catching people off guard. When war, inflation fears, and oil stress hits the board, Bitcoin still found buyers and even outperformed stocks in this stretch. That does not mean Bitcoin is now some perfect safe haven, but it does mean the market is starting to treat it with more respect than it used to. And that is exactly why people need to be careful. Because once something starts acting stronger than expected, people get emotional fast. They stop waiting. They stop thinking. They start convincing themselves that every green candle is the all clear. That is how people get caught. The system always leaves clues. And here's the clue. Bitcoin is holding up better than people expected. Ethereum has more support behind it than people expected. Money is flowing in, products are expanding, demand is real, but I am still not giving this market the all clear. Strength is real, so is the trap. Now here's what that means for regular people. It means you do not need to panic. It also means you do not need to start acting thirsty. You do not need to chase Bitcoin because it touched 74. You do not need to chase ETH because it woke up. What you need to understand is this. The market is still telling you that Bitcoin and ETH still matter. The market is still telling you that large money is still willing to step in. The market is telling you Bitcoin may be evolving into something sturdier than people gave it credit for. But the market is not telling you to lose discipline. My stance is direct. I still lean bear market. I still think people can get caught in a bull trap. I still believe this kind of strength can happen inside a bigger, messier market structure. That is why I position. I do not marry the move. I do not worship the candle. I position. If Bitcoin keeps proving strength, good. If Ethereum keeps building, good. But I'm not going to let a few strong weeks make me stupid. That is the lesson. Not crypto up, everybody scream. The lesson is pay attention to what is changing. Bitcoin is acting different. That's the truth. Ethereum is getting more serious support. And when the market starts changing character, you do not ignore it. But you also do not abandon discipline. So here's what I'm watching next, loved ones. I'm watching whether Bitcoin can keep behaving like this if the macro pressure stays ugly. I'm watching whether Ethereum can hold on to this renewed strength now that the yield products are entering the conversation in a bigger way. I'm watching whether those fund inflows stay consistent because 3 strong weeks tells me something, but continuation tells me a lot more. And I'm watching sentiment because when people go from fear to overconfidence too fast, that is usually when the market humbles them. So the message this morning is simple. Yes, Bitcoin and Ethereum are acting strong. Yes, that strength matters. Yes, Bitcoin is starting to look a little more like a serious asset in an unstable world. But no, that does not mean you lose your discipline. You position wisely, you stay sharp, and you do not get caught in a bull trap. Take care, loved ones. I'm Crypto Stock Markets, and I'll get up with y'all tomorrow.